attorneys are optimistic that in cases like this, a stay is granted. And the stay is necessary because there's a lot of confusion.
That was D.C. President of Council Chairman, Phil Mendelson, earlier this morning, speaking to Brian Wilson and me on Mornings on the Mall. And as luck would have it, he predicted correctly. The federal judge, earlier today did put a stay on his ruling that legalized open carry in the district. Joining us right now, John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, also, of course, author of the seminal work, More Guns, Less Crime. The most cited research on the relationship between gun laws and crime rates. He joins us now. Mr. Lott, hello.
Great to talk to you.
So, first of all, let's go to the decision. Many observers looking at the judge's decision that was released on Saturday, looked at it and said, well, this is pretty solid language. It's pretty unequivocal. He probably won't grant a stay. What do you think of the judge's move today?
Well, the plaintiffs didn't challenge the district's move to have a stay put in place, so that made it kind of a non-issue. I mean, the plaintiffs at least have to argue against it to have a chance. But look, in order to get a stay, which essentially means you're going to put on hold the judge's decision there, you have to argue that there'd be irreparable damage that would occur if you were to let the decision go through. And I think if one is willing to look at the numbers, it would be pretty hard for the district to credibly argue that would be real harm from letting people carry concealed handguns. First of all, you can look at other court cases. There was a case last year where Judge Richard Posner, probably the most famous appeals court judge in the country, wrote a decision that struck down Illinois' ban on concealed carry. Illinois was the last state to ban concealed carry, and he basically went through the academic literature and he said, look, if you just look at the opponents of concealed carry, the very worst that the opponents say is that there's no effect. And he said you can't keep a ban in there just by saying there's no effect. You actually have to have someone saying that there's some type of harm. And so I don't think anybody looking at the literature would have come to a different decision than Judge Posner did. And so I don't see where they would have even started in terms of arguing that there was irreparable harm that was occurring.
John Lott, yesterday on this program we had council member Tommy Wells. He is a huge proponent of the district's laws that infringe upon the Second Amendment for citizens who live here or work here in the district. And he said this yesterday.
There's nothing really been shown to show that that a community is any safer because they cannot carry handguns around.
Well,
I guess in concept it makes, you kind of think, again, like Wild Wild West.
So didn't your organization, Crime Prevention Research Center, just this month come out with a pretty comprehensive study that speaks to that issue?
Right. Well, I mean, again, just listen to his language. It seems like the worst he's arguing that there's no benefit. If you look at the academic literature, my research, others, the Crime Prevention Research Center that we put out, the vast majority of research, peer-reviewed academic research, about 70% finds that violent crime rates fall. The other 30% say that there's no effect. But if that's all he wants to argue, that there's no benefit from it, I don't see how he can credibly go to the court and say we need to have a stay as a result of that.
Yeah.
Look. I mean, one way of looking at that, every other state in the country allows concealed carry to different degrees. 8 require that you have to have some good reason for having. The other 42 have what we call right to carry, which means that once you meet the criteria, you're automatically granted a permit. And 6 of those no longer even require that you have a permit.
But how do you respond to the argument that's being made now that the District of Columbia is a special circumstance? Because this is the seat of power in the United States of America, president is here, elected officials are here, foreign dignitaries are here, that there's an extra criteria here where the police have to be able to know if someone is carrying a gun just in case they intend harm.
Well, I mean, you got the UN in New York, right? You have the president goes around and campaigns around the country. My guess is if you're trying to go and protect the president or protect some senator or something like that, you're going to have an easier time protecting them in Washington, D.C., where, you know, they have the White House and all the security around there, and you have the Capitol and what have you. I guess it's, look.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm going to steal that next time we have one of these council members on.
Right. I mean, look, if you have a terrorist, somehow the notion that you're going to stop the terrorist from taking a gun into Washington, D.C. because you tell him it's a gun-free zone is just hilarious.
John Lott, should proponents of open carry and concealed carry be very happy, though, that this is moving forward, the stay is granted? That means the argument is going to be resolved at a higher court?
Well, I think you're going to have to wait till the Supreme Court to get a favorable decision, but at least the few-day experiment that we have should give pause to those who would claim the world's going to end by letting people be able to protect themselves.
Dr. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. Check out all of his books, but I would start with More Guns, Less Crime. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Talking to you.
Washington's Mall, WMAL, where Washington comes to talk.